The man in the arena, that's the focus of tonight's angle. Democrats were once so cocky.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
And it wasn't just Obama.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Every day it becomes clearer he will never be president of the United States.
What's your message to former President Trump tonight?
You can't always get what you want.
Well, Trump did get what he wanted. The voters did as well. And cackling Kamala was sent packing, at which point all Schumer and friends could do was hope for the worst.
It is 100 days of chaos. From one end of the government and one end of the country to the other.
They are driving us toward a painful Republican recession.
Tariffs that, as I predicted, are clearly inviting a recession.
At least since Reagan, Trump is, without a doubt, the strongest president in modern American history. Just in the past 10 days, he won every significant case at the Supreme Court, from parental rights and education to nationwide injunctions. And, of course, what happened then? Peace between Israel and Iran, Iran's nuclear program gone, and he got NATO to pay up.
I want to state here, without President Trump, this would not have happened. In 3 stages. When you became president in 2016, 2017, you forced Europeans and Canadians to pay more. And now comes the big splash. Today, we will decide to go to 5%. This would not have happened if you would not have been elected in 2016 and re-elected last year and back into office in January.
And we got a preview of the trade deals.
We've got peace deals, we got trade deals, we got tax deals. We had trade talks in Geneva moving toward the agreement in London. Part of the agreement was tariffs coming down and rare earth magnets starting to flow back to the U.S.
Now the big, beautiful bill. Well, Trump put his entire presidency on the line to push it through. And, of course, Democrats and the media, they predicted that he could never make good on his agenda. Remember all those headlines citing the Republicans' impossibly slim majority? Now, the bill isn't all beautiful, but politics is the art of the possible. We have to remember, it's not a debating society. Purity tests might work in think tanks, but not in governance. And if you made Tom Massey president and made Rand Paul his vice president, you still couldn't get Congress to really cut spending. And other wins over the past few months, oh, come on. Blue-collar wages are up, the largest increase in 60 years. 1.7% is actually meaningful. Why? Because inflation, unlike under Biden, isn't eating away at the gains that people make. So at every turn, the Trump critics crashed and burned.
This is an economic Armageddon that's coming for the U.S. consumer and the economy.
You see all of his cabinet members, his other aides, going on TV and glorifying the tariff-mageddon we have just been through and are still going through.
President Trump shrugs as the stock market plunges and the dollar weakens amid warnings that his tariffs could throw the United States into a recession.
We told you to relax, not to panic. So did the president. And who was right? The Dow has gone up more than 17% since the lows in early April, and today the S&P and NASDAQ indexes closed at record highs. So once again, across the board, on issue after issue, domestic and foreign policy, Trump defies his detractors, his critics, the naysayers, the doomsdayers. It turns out that if you surround yourself with a team of really smart people who work all of the time, you can actually accomplish a lot. Remember, people underestimated Lincoln, FDR. And if a president delivers results, though, they'll go down in history as a great president. If he doesn't, he won't. Think of Jimmy Carter. Americans don't care if you were raised poor, if you're a nice person, if your presidency makes them poorer. And think of the Bushes, well-liked by a lot of people, including the establishment, family men, patriots. But President Bush only got 37% of the vote in 1992, and his son, on Election Day, 2008, had a 25% approval rating. The Obama era had begun. The entire reason President Trump got elected in 2024 is that people thought he delivered the best economy in recent memory his first term, and they wanted it back, along with border enforcement and mass deportation. And yeah, the voters were right. So it's worth taking a moment in this busy news cycles to appreciate this period of time we're all living in. This past decade, but even just this past year, because of the courage, the grit, and the grinding effort of Donald Trump, we have seen extraordinary triumphs for the nation as a whole. Think of what he, and frankly we, had to overcome. The Biden cover-up and its media collaborators, the big money behind lawfare to take Trump off the ballot, corrupt prosecutors in New York, in Georgia, in D.C., the Kamala Khan, the campus propaganda machines, Big Pharma's hold on our health care, the teachers' unions and their radical agenda, the open borders radicals, the ICE protest theater that's still ongoing, and of course, the prophecies of economic doom. And yet after all this, Trump is still in the arena, fighting, and poised to deliver 3.5 years of peace and prosperity. Now, is there more for him to do? Is everything perfect? Of course not. There are real challenges that await. Of course, winning the midterms, 2028 race, is critical. Otherwise, this cycle of investigations and impeachment is going to begin anew. But if Trump stays on course, he will be remembered as one of the greatest presidents of all time. So ignore the bitter academics, the disgruntled media, and the people with the purity tests out there. They're always wrong and simply don't matter at this point. Donald Trump is going to be judged by how the American people feel about their lives during the Trump era. And heading into our 250th birthday, Americans should have a lot to celebrate. And that's the angle.
And welcome to Hannity, and we begin this Monday night with a Fox News alert. Tonight, President Trump's one big, beautiful bill is now poised to pass the U.S. Senate at any moment. The biggest tax cut in American history is still on track to become law by July the 4th. Now, this would be a monumental achievement for the president and another huge promise made and huge promise kept. Now, don't get me wrong, bill's not perfect. There are provisions and policies that I'd prefer weren't in there. For example, SALT deductions, state and local tax deductions. Well, that rewards blue states for electing tax and spend and high regulating politicians. But unfortunately, that's how the sausage gets made in the swamp, if it's going to get made at all. And by the way, Lindsey Graham kept saying, no, we're going to pass this and we'll have another reconciliation bill and cut spending even further. Love to hear that. No one person, and I said this when I had the Senate town hall and the House town hall, none of you all understand, none of you are going to get everything you want. But at the same time, this legislation is packed with massive, huge, important wins for you, the American people. For starters, Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut, it will be extended. It will be the largest tax cut in American history. Democrats will be voting against the largest tax cut in American history and for the largest tax increase in American history. The bill also eliminating taxes on tips, taxes on overtime. It lowers taxes on Social Security. It tackles waste, fraud, abuse, corruption in Medicaid, and even creates a work requirement for able-bodied Americans now enrolled in the program. The bill also extends the full child tax credit and standard deduction. It allocates funds for Donald Trump's Golden Dome Air Defense Project. May go down one day when we're all long dead and gone as his greatest legacy and save millions of lives. They mocked strategic defense when Reagan brought it up, and they called it Star Wars, and look what it's been able to do to protect Israel. There are other funds for military modernization. I call it the next generation of weaponry, desperately needed because our military has been completely neglected the last 4 years under Biden and Harris. It also has funds for desperately needed border security and the deportations of all these criminals and terrorists, murderers, rapists, cartel members, gang members, other violent criminals, drug dealers in our country, and will put America on a path towards energy dominance and all the wealth that will come with that. The lifeblood of every economy on the face of the earth. We will be an energy-rich nation. And meanwhile, Biden-era climate rules and regulations, they will be repealed. The green tax credit will be eliminated. Biden's student loan scheme and scam, whatever you want to call it, will officially be over. And despite all of the fear-mongering from Democrats, here's what the bill doesn't do. It does not decrease Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, or Social Security benefits. In fact, those earning Social Security, for example, they will take home more money thanks to a reduction in taxes. Medicare payments will increase while Medicaid recipients are protected from fraud. The big, beautiful bill also does not increase the deficit. Instead, the deficit will go down around a little shy of $2 trillion. That's to begin with, according to estimates. But we know that when Reagan cut taxes and President Trump cut taxes, cutting taxes in Reagan's case doubled revenues to the federal government, except Congress spent $1.25 for every new dollar they brought in, because that's what happens when you cut taxes. It stimulates the economy, creates jobs, takes people off the welfare rolls. Guess what? People are working. Now they're paying taxes, and that will benefit working class Americans the most in this bill, increasing their take-home pay. They're all getting more money back, especially if they earn tips on overtime or rely on Social Security. Democrats will vote against all of these benefits for the people that really make this country great, hard-working men and women, and this will solidify the Democratic Party and their positions as nothing but woke, out-of-touch, coastal elitists. That's who they are. That defines their politics. Why would you vote against cutting tax on tips and overtime and the largest tax decrease in history? Why do you want the largest tax increase in history? Why didn't they secure the border? Why won't they vote to secure the border? You know, why won't they vote for energy dominance so we can be an energy-rich country, high-paying career jobs in the energy industry? On top of that, had the $10 trillion in manufacturing commitments President Trump has gotten from companies and countries. Wow, the American people are on the verge of a level of prosperity they have never experienced before. But the so-called champions of the working class and the Democratic Party, they are nowhere to be found when it really matters. Tonight, it really matters. President Trump, he is the driving force behind this legislation. So, of course, they can't give him a win. They'll never support it. Just like last week, they were lying about the attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Oh, those 14 bunker buster bombs, 30,000-pound bombs. They did no damage. Didn't work. Well, and trashing our military in the process as they work with skill, precision, courage, under fire. I mean, unbelievable. What a success. They are unwilling to work with Republicans because they hate Trump. They don't care for working men and women in this country, and they just care about their woke radical agenda. Instead, as we speak, they're now lining up to support an actual communist to be New York City's next mayor, if elected. Zohran Mamdani, also known as Marxist Mamdani on this show, would be the most radical, extreme mayor in American history, and he's competing with a lot of close, seconds. For example, the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Bass out there. This is not an exaggeration. It is not a smear. Marxist Mamdani is a proud communist. He wants the government to seize private property, control the means of production. Don't believe me? Look for yourself.
It is very critical for all of us to remember what it is that we are fighting for, and to remember that our agenda is an agenda that must not be dictated by calculus, but by conviction. And what I mean by that is that the many things that we believe, some of them are already popular in this moment right now, right? If we're talking about the cancellation of student debt, if we're talking about Medicare for all, these are issues which have the groundswell of popular support across this country. But then there are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it is the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
End goal, seizing the means of production, is literally what Fidel Castro did in Cuba, what the Soviet Union did during the Bolshevik Revolution. But of course, that's just, Marxist Mamdani's ultimate goal. In the meantime, he's plotting a massive new tax on so-called white neighborhoods. Take a look for yourself.
Went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed.
Whiter neighborhoods, not driven by race. Let's play Jeopardy at home. If you single out and discriminate against one race, what do you at home call that? Just asking. Another prime target of Mamdani's Marxist revolution in New York City are the many billionaires who live and work in Manhattan. As a matter of fact, they create a lot of high-paying career jobs for people so they can pay those exorbitant rent prices and high taxes for the insane socialist policies that exist now. Take a look.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Fair to each New York City resident according to their need. From each New York City resident according to their ability. In other words, Mamdani would like the government to seize billions in, quote, equity, because it's not fair right now in stocks and cash, I don't know, from billionaires on Wall Street, people like Elon Musk. Because in his view, the government can spend Elon's money much better. And when he gets that money and he gives people free stuff, he thinks the odds are much higher that they're going to keep him in power instead of, investing in cutting edge technology, SpaceX, Starlink, Neuralink, maybe to help the blind see and people with spinal cord injuries walk. What do you think millionaires and billionaires in New York City are going to do if Marxist Mamdani is elected? They are going to pack and leave, and that means working class New Yorkers are going to be losing their jobs in droves. So, it's unclear how he plans to pay for all of this when they say bye-bye, but Mamdani is promising free buses, free childcare, free healthcare, a government-mandated rent-freeze, government-controlled grocery stores. They run everything else so well. How about they work on their schools that are a disaster in New York City and price controls all throughout the city? He has also called for the NYPD to be defunded. That's right, and replaced with social workers. How's that going to work out? Think about that. Somebody's deranged, has mental problems, let's say injected heroin, fentanyl, or cocaine into their body, and we're going to have a social worker. I'm here to ask you, what is causing this moment? Did you have a bad childhood? Good luck with that. He once said that violent crime is a little more than a social construct, and that real violence is waged by judges and prosecutors locking up convicted felons. That's why he would end cash bail and let the criminals run free. And like most other Marxists in the U.S., it appears that Mamdani wants to wipe Israel off the map. Chanting people in New York and on college campuses, halls of Congress, from the river to the sea, and doesn't seem to have a problem with a global intifada, which is a holy war against non-Muslims. He had a chance on NBC this weekend, not one, not two, 3 opportunities to condemn global intifada. He refused to do so. By the way, Hakeem Jeffries, if you're watching, he needs to clarify this. He did. Obviously, he won't condemn it. There's your answer. Take a look.
Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use.
Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me.
Quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president who is looking to do those very kinds of things.
Would he condemn racism, sexism? I bet he would. It's not good, to say the least. Make him an honorary squad member right now. And like many other radical socialists, Marxists, statists, Mamdani is actually from not so humble roots. His parents, incredibly successful. Guess what? They're also very wealthy. He lived a very privileged life. He wanted for nothing. But now we learn he seeks to overthrow the system that enabled his lifestyle, all while pretending to be a struggling immigrant who eats with his hands. We have proof. Take a look.
This is how we defeat the occupation. Style.
So the third holy grail of taboos in American politics, you have socialism, you have Islam, and then you have Palestine. And you are really going for the trifecta.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Tell me, why is Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding of the Palestinian struggle. It is one that is framed in terms of empathy and solidarity.
I would support taxpayer dollars going to a fork, but that's just my preference. If this guy's elected, it will not end well for New York. And like every other socialist hellhole, the people who will suffer the most are the ones that cannot and will not be able to afford to leave.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back. I hope someone remembered to feed Kat while I was away. Happy Monday, everyone. Okay, AOC finally responded proudly concerning a high school yearbook photo that proves she grew up in a wealthy suburb. She said, "See, I told you I went to high school." Today is the last day of Pride Month. Thank God. Now I can go back to banging chicks. Yeah. Hey. It's like reverse Lent.
You're so brave. He's so brave.
Amy Coney Barrett slammed Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent in the birthright citizenship case by saying it's at odds with more than 2 centuries of precedent. Not to mention the Constitution itself. Blah, 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 blah. Chicks, am I right? 80-year-old Rod Stewart performed at the Glastonbury Music Festival with a rousing rendition of "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" He followed that up, of course, with his latest hit, "Do You Think I'm Breathing?" Over the weekend, F1, the movie, brought in $140 million. Man, Hollywood must be desperate for content, making a movie about a button on my keyboard. Over the weekend, the Kardashians, Jenners, and other celebrities went to Venice to celebrate the Jeff Bezos-Lauren Sanchez wedding. It was the largest concentration of Ozempic outside of Rosie O'Donnell's urine sample. Started laughing. Because Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, after he and Lauren Sanchez said their I do's, the officiant said, "I now pronounce you paper in plastic." Leo DiCaprio also attended the wedding because his date was the flower girl. It's an old flower girl, what can I say? Finally, an Australian man was arrested for stealing $100,000 worth of bull semen. It was valued at $100,000 after I said that's my final offer. Ain't cheap. Well, what a great week I had, gotta tell you. Got some sun, exercise, and relaxation. I even did some whale watching. Yeah. Anyway, finished the show. I had a TV in the room, so. But my past 7 days is nothing compared to the week Trump had. I gotta take a deep breath just to go through it all. So here goes. First, you had the Iran strike, where Iran just had their nuclear prospects sent back to the Stone Age, or in their case, blasted forward into the Stone Age. And while the mullahs claimed it was no big deal, dry cleaners in Tehran reported receiving truckloads of soiled robes. Then there's the ceasefire, where Trump acted as coach, separating 2 players, still fighting after the whistle blew. Then he got our NATO allies to pony up 5% of their GDP on defense. No one's done that before. Maybe we can get him to bring up Jesse's behavior when the check comes after dinner. Cheap bastard. Of course, there's the vanishing border crossings and gotaways, while Trump's approval among Hispanics explodes. He's now as popular among Latinos as Family, Religion, and the Weather Girl on Telemundo. No cold front there. But I guess the Dems calling him Taco Trump kind of backfired. The stock market roared back despite predictions of idiots like Jim Cramer, who claimed tariffs would usher in the apocalypse. Sorry, the only thing headed to the apocalypse is Jim Cramer. Meanwhile, new data suggests Kamala's trouncing in 2024 could have been far worse if more people had voted. So if the Dems had worked harder to get out the vote, they would have gotten fewer votes. Turns out their biggest enemies are their own policies, candidates, and party. They're like a cat who's allergic to cats. On top of that, the Supreme Court got rid of the nationwide injunctions, the legal system's version of cock blocking, used to stymie Trump's agenda, and in the process revealed that the dissenting libs are less qualified than Lionel Hutz. Wow, how soon we forget. But with the winning comes the whining. Critics claim the economy would have been fine without this trade war, but that's like saying Dolly Parton would have been just as famous without the huge cans. Because without the new tariffs, we wouldn't have the extra billions coming in, which the critics leave out. It's a half opinion, like celebrating your weight loss, but failing to mention the tapeworm. Now, when you praise Trump for being this good, they'll accuse you of idol worship, as if they didn't act like Barack Obama orange sherbet. To them, it doesn't matter they're losing. It matters that you back the guy who's won over and over. I mean, it's beyond predictable. It's like a birthday party magic show. You see the tricks coming. Seriously, how many magic acts have you seen in your life? Not counting Jesse being handed his own show. But when you see a guy holding a top hat, chances are a rabbit's going to be pulled.
देखिए गदर में बहुत लाख खर्च अल्लाह हुआ है इनके and bring you back to his family who are sheltering in one of the displacement sites. We're joined by Mr. Rayed Hassan, an aid seeker from the northern part of the strip, walks all of the daily kilometers to the new town center. Thank you for your time. The main reason, what's the main motivation to head to the food distribution on a daily basis despite the high risks? Frankly speaking, since the Israeli occupation forces belligerence on Gaza started and the total blockade of Gaza, we have all the population in Gaza have been suffering starvation, absence of basic supplies and medical supplies. We have no other option but to go and get our hands on food despite the high risks. We need you to put us in the picture. How does it look like within the food distribution? How do you feel when you feel the bullets zooming and jet fighters hovering above your heads? Before establishing these food distribution centers, we have been suffering. We start venturing out at about 12 o'clock midnight, risking our lives. We are expecting to be shot at any point of time. We are surrounded by Israeli jet fighters and quadcopters. Many of them are having machine guns mounted on them. The positions of the Israeli occupation forces are shelling us with artillery and tank shells, in addition to the opening of gunfires. Thousands, more than 250,000, up to 500,000 are flocking to the only center, food distribution center in the Gaza Strip. What is graver in danger are the quadcopter or the Israeli drones that are opening fire indiscriminately on the crowd, despite the fact that none of the civilian population among these crowds are posing any danger. We are headed towards the American food distribution, which we call the death trap. The Israeli quadcopters, drones are opening fire randomly and indiscriminately on the civilian population. Apart from that, the Israeli warships are opening fire and also shelling us from the sea. The distribution centers open their doors 6 o'clock in the morning, during which who's out, we face them. Based on your narrative, the main reason you go